Guys, Rumblysuperset here, back again doing another analyzing gameplay, this time of CP Samuel Lane. Now, I have been experimenting with him here and there in jungle and in lane for the past couple of games, but keep in mind I'm not a lane main as far as Samuel goes. I actually tend to like to play him in jungle more than lane, but of course, Nox is a roam main, and then Rickless in this particular game, he generally goes jungle, so I'll put into the lane CP Samuel role here. So what I do with Samuel is I primarily go with, I guess, sustaining in the beginning. I go with an Eve of Harvest, then I go into more damage. I guess because of the way I build him, I'm more of a late game bloomer than I am an early game aggressor. I do try to poke with my A and with my passive, as you can clearly see there. Whenever my passive's up and I see an opportunity, I do try to poke the Vox just to kind of keep him at bay. You can see that it's doing a ton of damage. It's basically like an innate tension bow with CP ratios. But yeah, so we're just maintaining our farm currently right now. We're not doing too bad. Again, the mobility and the positioning on the A is actually pretty beneficial for Samuel. A lot of times you want to be strafing your team or your enemies in combination with your B. Even when not with the B, strafing is always a great thing because you can avoid damage while strafing while putting out damage while casting your A. And you're using your passives, obviously. So one thing to note about Samuel is the fact that his passive does give you health and energy back. It's X amount of damage, X amount of energy back, depending on what kind of target you're hitting. If you're hitting a hero, it's more. If you're hitting a minion, it's less. I believe that's lane minions are less. I'm not sure about jungle as far as the damage output or just the heal that you get, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure it's the lane mains that are definitely the ones that are at reduced damage and energy gained back. Alright, so another thing too about Samuel that you want to keep an eye on is your energy. So between casting abilities, even when you're using your BA combo, you want to target your enemies with a basic attack whenever your passive's up. I don't do it all the time because I tend to forget sometimes. Like I said, I'm not a lane main as far as Samuel goes. But I'm starting to learn to use it more often, even more so than this particular game. I started playing some more today. Missing a little bit of farm here, though. That's not great. I don't know. I always find, I don't know, I'm starting to like sway away from laning in general. I've been doing a lot more roaming and a lot more jungling than I have been laning. I've been finding that any kind of CP hero that I play, I always have a hard time farming with. And if you guys even saw my Vox CP video, I actually went with a weapon blade in the beginning just to farm easier. And it does help, but it's not necessarily always recommended. Like for instance, getting a weapon blade on a Samuel, you'll probably never see done unless you're going weapon power Samuel, which I wouldn't even say it's that great. Alright, so we got our B, we got our A. So what you want to do is you want to maximize the AoE potential here. So B, when you cast it, as long as you remain in it, it resets the cooldown of your A far quicker than, say, if you weren't in the B. And it does apply a boosted effect such as damage and splash. I believe it's damage, but definitely splash, meaning it hits multiple targets in an area. But yeah, so again, I'm trying to poke here and there. I'm not going to try to go for a kill. Rickless almost tried to get it, but just couldn't quite pick it up. But I'm going to try to maintain my focus on farm. A lot of times, too, what I see, and I do this too, is as a laner, a lot of people like to rotate a little too much and get themselves far too involved in fights when they don't need to be, and they should be focusing on farm. And a lot of times that could help your enemies and negatively affect you as far as farming. So the more you participate in team fights, the further behind you get in farm, unless you're just really good at managing rotations, meaning you're pushing lane. So right now you would rotate potentially if you want to buy items. And then by the time you come back, the lane should be back to center, or closer to your base potentially, even if the enemy laner is pushing now. But yeah, that's kind of what you do. I'm keeping the Vox in this particular situation at bay, so he has a hard time farming as well. I don't know how effective it's being right now, but we're trying our best to be kind of like the asshole hero right now. Samuel's pretty annoying, especially late game, but early game he can be pretty annoying as well, especially with that passive. That passive just, sometimes I feel like it's a little strong, but just because that it is up fairly often, But yeah, so there we go. We got some good damage going off on the enemies here. Doing a little bit of damage from my combo, my BA combo. And we are getting really close to being dead here, but we're going to back out, go to shop, probably pick up the rest of our Eve. There we go. Grab a couple potions potentially and head on back up to lane. I tend to like get as many potions as I, can see fit, like what's best for me. And a lot of times I get like about 3 or 4, sometimes 5, depending on how well we're doing. Just because it keeps me topped off in lane and allows me to stay longer. It's 25 gold, but the fact of the matter is that you get to stay in lane far longer, especially if you're getting pressured and you can pop potions to keep you kind of topped off, or not even topped off, but just somewhat healthy. It is really beneficial, and I think the gold cost is severely outweighed by the benefits of getting potions for sure. I know some low elo people don't even get potions because they don't think it's worth it, but it is in fact worth it. Back in the day, I used to not even get potions. It's kind of funny, but now it's kind of standard. If you go to the shop, you generally buy potions. All right, so our farm, we're behind by like 10 CS, give or take, because I did miss a couple here and there in the beginning. It's just the early stages for CP heroes, for me particularly. Not saying everybody, but for me, I seem to have a hard time maintaining my farm a bit with, like, say for instance Scarf or even Celeste. Celeste I'm a little bit better just because I played a lot of Celeste lately, but yeah, I mean, there's things here and there that kind of make it difficult as far as CP goes. But once you're weapon power though, like, farming is far easier in my mind than anything else. And we do pick up the Phinn. Great job on Nox keeping him pinned there so we can do some pretty nasty damage here. Getting my CS. Gonna try to poke a bit on the Kestrel, and I kind of thought I can go in there and kill him, but I kind of got a little overconfident in my ability to put out damage and to survive from taking damage, and I actually died, especially because of the fact that, I do take resonance bounces too with Nox being nearby. Not saying it was his fault, it was entirely my fault for thinking that I can handle that, but I didn't take that into account, the fact that the bounces would do a lot of damage to me, especially since it looks like it's a CP Vox. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and use our AB combo, get that splash going. Although it did cost us a couple minions because I'm not great at managing it right now. There we go. So again, we're still only about 10 to 11 CS behind, so we're not really falling behind anymore, per se. We're just kind of maintaining what we can at this point. One thing to do, if you are behind in farm and your junglers are doing well, a lot of times if they're pushing into the enemy into the enemy jungle, you yourself as a laner can push lane and then go to your backs and pick up backs. Because by the time they're done taking the enemy backs, they should be back. And that's a lot of backs in that sentence. They should be, the back should be back for the enemies to get the backs. So that kind of stuff. Here we are. Pretty nasty. We didn't really have that fight in our favor. But because Samuel's so good at doing this, he can kite a lot here. And we actually are doing an insane amount of damage to that Vox. The Phinn is still chasing me. I don't know why. I'm just getting my passives and doing a ton of damage here. And we're going to go ahead and try to pick off the Vox, but we just can't get it yet. We are really close. I should have used my boots right there, but I did not. And now I'm a little bit late on it. And I'm going to go ahead and not be able to secure the kill unless I can get in there and get that passive proc. And I don't think I'm going to get it. Nope. And so now Phinn is still chasing me. Luckily, though, we do have an Eve of Harvest, so we do get a little bit of heal every time we hit something. So that's pretty good, too. Oof. Oh, I'm taking so much damage. Talkin's gonna go in and do some pretty nasty damage to the Vox, but unfortunately he does die. Guess I'll just pick him up. Alright, are we gonna do the BA combo, or are we just gonna kind of sit back and try to keep our turret alive and not die? Here we go. Oh, Nox actually knocked away the minion. That's okay. He was just trying to keep me topped off. So we are falling a little bit behind on farm again. So now we're down 20 CS as far as perfect goes. Perfect being 10 CS per minute. And it's not so bad. It's just not ideal. You want to keep yourselves around, like, you know, at the most, you know, 10 to 15 CS below. Ideally, you want to be perfect or even higher. But, yeah, we're a little behind. And like I said, we could take backs, but that also, if you're not doing it right, can negatively affect your jungler too, because then he'll be sitting there not farming because he's not taking enemy backs, and now he's just waiting for his backs to respawn. So that could be a bad thing for your team too. So it's one of those things that's kind of, there's situations when it can be permitted, and other situations where you should probably not do it. All right, so we're looking pretty good though as far as kill to death ratio. We're definitely in the positive, 4-1. The Samuel's definitely going to start picking up on some pretty nasty damage here in about, you know, I don't know, like 5 minutes or so when we start getting a lot more CP damage in there. And it looks like we're going to be getting a lot of damage here on the Vox. Pursuing the Kestrel now. Going to go ahead and be able to pick her up. It looks like no, and we're still trying. The Kestrel is doing a ton of damage. The Phinn is doing a great job at soaking up some of that damage though. But we unfortunately get, or fortunate for us, unfortunate for them, we get an ace. Alright, so farm is, let's just say farm isn't ideal. But what matters is that we're actually winning team fights, and we are getting objectives. We got the gold mine. We're going to work on this turret now. I don't think we're going to be able to pick it up, but we are going to be able to do some damage to it. Oh, no, we are going to pick it up. Nice. So that was 600 gold for the whole entire team. And we do not get the Vox. Oh, my God, that was so close. If only I had boots, I could have popped my passive potentially and got the kill, but just not quite close enough. All right. And, yeah, the reason why I've kind of been gearing towards jungle a little bit more is that it's a little more forgiving when it comes to CSing, because you basically just get your back. So long as they're not pressuring you, you're going to get your CS regardless, unless you're just taking forever to clear your farm, and then you get behind because of that. But I think it's far more forgiving. And I just like the fact that, you know, lane, what happens in lane is that a lot of times it's just kind of a standoff. You guys are just both farming, and then someone comes to gank out of nowhere, and you die. Or if it's on your side, the enemy dies. And it's cool and all, but it's not as fun as, say, for jungle, particularly for me. I feel like it's just the jungle fights are just far more entertaining. But yeah, but we're doing really good. We're starting to turn these matches around. And not these matches, but these fights. There we go. So looks like I'm going for a Eve, a Broken Myth. Probably go into either a Shatterglass or maybe even a Frostburn. Frostburn's actually pretty good too, because it does slow them and allows you to kite the heck out of them. But if you want just pure damage, then you go Shatterglass, just because the amount of crystal power you get is substantial. But we got to be careful here, because Nox is taking a ton of damage. Resonance will destroy me, as you can clearly see. One thing too, a lot of people do this, is they cast their B in the direction of the enemy, even when they're trying to run. A lot of times if you're trying to run away, you want to cast your B behind you, so it's going away from the enemy, so you can constantly use your A as you run away. Whereas if you cast it towards the enemy, you're going to be able to cast your A once or twice, and then it's going to be in the vicinity of your enemies and outside of your own personal range, and you won't be able to use that to run away. It's kind of just, it doesn't seem to benefit you as much if you cast it towards the enemy if you're trying to run away. So here we are. We got a lot of damage potential here. Taka does go down, though. We do have our B coming up here pretty soon. I'm going to use my passive and get the health and the energy back from the Phinn. And now we're going to just rack up our Broken Myth stacks. We're at 5 right now, so we just got a double kill off the Phinn Kestrel using that BA combo slash, you know, finishing off with A, whatever it may be. His ultimate also is great for disruptive. My English is totally on point today. For disruption. Given the fact that it just completely shuts down anybody, whether they're in an ult or not, it just completely shuts them down. It's not a stun, so if you hit them, they do wake up and they can move. But the duration is far longer than a stun, so if you leave them alone, you can actually potentially put a lot of enemies to sleep with one not asleep and just focus on that one target that is still awake. take him out, and by the time you're done taking him out, the enemies who were asleep are now waking up and are now in a 2v3 situation. So things like that, or simply just starting off the fight with that, kind of flusters the enemy, and they're just like, oh my god, what just happened? I can't do anything. And it does, in fact, silence. Because you are asleep, you can't cast anything, so it is technically a silence. So it's pretty nasty, actually. And the damage isn't too bad off that ultimate, too. Alright, so we definitely got to use our passive here, because we're running low on energy. There we go. We got one of our passive procs, getting that energy going. And we do pick up the kill on the Kestrel, and now Phinn is next. There he goes. Taka picks up the kill, getting the ace. And now we're going to go ahead and just clear lane and push lane as hard as we can while our teammates get Kraken. Again, this is kind of like a higher, I wouldn't say like a super high elo tactic, but it's definitely a higher strategy where you split objectives. So, for instance, right now I'm doing turrets. They're not going with me to kill turret because I can handle it myself. If I can't kill it, at least I can do a lot of damage to it. And during that same time, my teammates are going to go ahead and get the Kraken. So I take out a turret. Now Kraken's going to pop. And so now we just have that much more room to push for win here. Because we already got the turret that it would have gotten to first and stopped and started hitting it. So we got 2,000 gold. We're going to go ahead and pick up some defense here. Got the Aegis. Finish off heading towards a Shatter Glass, I believe. I'll probably go with the Heavy Prism. Oh no, we're going Boots. So it looks like we're going for more sustain as far as energy sustain and overall cooldown, so we can use our abilities more, which is fine. More damage is not bad too, but a lot of times, you know, I run out of energy maybe, even with the clockwork, because that beat is pretty expensive. This is where it kind of hurts though. Nox does save me, pumping out everything on me here, keeping me alive. The ultimate did help in that situation too, because it put some of them asleep, allowing me just an extra millisecond to get, you know, in a situation where it benefits me. And they snipe on the A, even when Kestrel was invisible. And here's where we close out the match. So it's 14-1-6. Although my farm wasn't great, we did a lot of objective control, which, you know, can definitely outweigh the pros and cons of, or the pros of keeping up farm. If you get objectives, then you're getting gold that way too. It just doesn't show any kind of numerical representation as far as numbers up top left. But you still have a sizable amount of gold you're gaining, so long as you're getting those objectives. So, you know, farm isn't everything, but it definitely is something that's super important. And I try to strive to get perfect, but it doesn't happen as often as I'd like it to, which is probably why I'm starting to veer towards more roam and jungle personally. But currently right now, after these matches, I did hit the high PoE bronze. Currently right now, as I'm recording it, I did get to the point where I'm almost PoE gold now. I did rank for like 4 hours. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this match playing... oh wait, this is a different account. My bad. This is the account that's actually... I'm helping Nox rank up too. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. And I will see you guys next time. Later!